welcome to Salubrious Skin with Dr. Irene. Today I'm talking about dry skin. Now, sometimes we think we're dry because we're feeling dehydrated or we're putting loads of moisturizer on our skin, but we're still feeling like our skin's really dry. And as a result of having dry skin, we can get itchy or skin conditions that result. So I wanted to let you know what Chinese medicine understands dry skin as being, because often I see a lot of patients with dryness of their skin, and it might not be the primary concern, but they're coming for something else and go, oh, and by the way, my skin's really dry. Whatever I put on it just, absorbs it instantaneously, and then it looks dry straight away. So I wanted to talk about what dry skin, according to Chinese medicine, is, and what you can do to potentially improve upon it. Because when you understand where it's coming from, you essentially will be able to improve it. So in general, dry skin comes from what we say as a blood and yin deficiency. So you know how we've got the yin and the yang? Yin is all about body fluids. There's a lot of other aspects to yin as well, but for this purpose, we're going to talk about body fluids. And so when we get depleted in yin and blood, essentially what happens is our body becomes dehydrated. Now, no amount of water or coconut water will replenish your hydration, because the issue is down to a cellular level. And when your tissues aren't able to take up the water or take up the coconut water to hydrate, then you're going to remain dehydrated despite how much water you're drinking. Another indication of having the yin and blood deficiency is water pretty much going right through you. So you drink water and within 30 minutes, it's pretty much coming out. And so with that, what's basically happening, as I said, is the tissues are dehydrated and not taking up that water for added hydration. So this can manifest from various areas. It could be from a skin problem that you might have presented. It could have been inflammation. Inflammation consumes yin, and over a period of time of having illness for a long period of time can consume these elements of your body. It might be that maybe diet's not great, and as a result, your body's not producing enough blood and yin. Women menstruate every single month, obviously during their reproductive life, and losing blood and not replenishing that in that time can lead to yin and blood deficiency. So there's lots of reasons that are too numerous to mention now, but it can happen from a multitude of areas. It can be also drug abuse, recreational medication that leads to yin deficiency over a period of time, consumes the person's yin. So it really is many and varied the contributing factors. So what can you do to help dry skin? Now, topically putting moisturizer, we've got our Salubrious Skin Balm, which is great, but that's just going to assist the dryness topically. It really has to come from internally, and that really comes from replenishing yin and blood. So there is a list of foods that you can have that will improve this. Essentially getting a complete resolution, herbs are a really great way of doing it. Something like goji berries that nourishes yin and essence, so that's something that you should be looking into having. But there are many herbs we use in Chinese medicine. There are many beyond just goji berries. Obviously, goji berries are accessible to the public. They're available in your health food store, and there's something that you can throw in your cereal. But a lot of our herbs are something that need to be processed, and the active ingredients are actually extracted and are able to be consumed and initiate the benefit that way. But diet's always a really good way of improving upon your blood and yin deficiency. So if we go from the perspective of what to avoid, anything that upsets digestion is not going to be beneficial for your body's ability to manufacture blood. So our body manufactures blood from the fluid we drink and the food we eat. Now, if we're eating a low nutrient rich diet, so high calorie and nutrient deficient diet, then there's not going to be enough nutrients to manufacture the blood. Having a digestion that's unhealthy will mean that the mechanism involved to extracting nutrients from our food is faulty. So we need to make sure our digestion is working properly. Having things like leaky gut or digestion issues are going to lead to a deficiency of blood and yin, because your body's not able to extract nutrients from the food you're eating. So making sure digestion is working well is really important. Now, if there's illness, the requirement of blood and yin is increased, because when there's illness, the body utilizes these elements to improve the imbalance that's occurred in the body. So often when someone's sick, they need more nutritious foods in order to help with improving their health. Now, something that if you do have a poor digestion, having something like bone broth daily is a very efficient way to heal leaky gut. Like I said, Chinese medicine has loads of herbs that we can prescribe, but this is all about information you can do to try and get things moving that are at your own disposal. Avoiding greasy, fatty foods, avoiding alcohol, sugar, inflammatory foods you're allergic to. So you might say, oh, you know, I might feel bloated after eating gluten, or whenever I eat this food, I don't feel great, or I have loose stools, or I feel lethargic, or I get depressed. That's all indications of having a food intolerance. So very important to stay away from something that your body can't tolerate. Even though your taste buds are screaming for it, when your body can't tolerate it, it can't utilize anything from it. So it'll either pass it out quickly, or it will just create inflammation that will result in issues later on. So making sure digestion's working well, eating food that's enhancing digestion, things like jasmine rice, basmati rice are great. If you can eat legumes, some legumes are beneficial. So I've had a mental blank of which ones. I've got it listed right here. So the broad beans and chickpeas, they're the ones that are quite good. Make sure you cook the chickpeas because they do expand. Cook them thoroughly. If you eat them semi-raw or not cooked properly, they will expand and cause you some digestive upsets. Other things that improve digestion is eating relaxed. So when you're at work and stressed and worried about, you know, whatever it is, or you're at school and you want to play, but you have to quickly eat your sandwich or whatever it is, eating stressed is going to delay digestion. And when food just sits around in the stomach, it fermentates, builds yeast, and can actually cause other health concerns at some point. So always important to eat relaxed, allow your food to digest. You know, after eating, sit there for half an hour, 45 minutes, and just relax. Don't run around and crazy. So taking an hour for lunch is really important. Obviously, little kids digest things very quickly, metabolize things very quickly, and they're full of energy. And as soon as they eat, they're off and running. And that's fine. I think it's more something with adults and having that hour break in the day that's really beneficial to making sure digestion is continuing to be as optimal as possible. Now, eating a varied, fresh diet, so fresh food, avoiding packaged food, that's not great for digestion. Processed, refined carbohydrates and things like that aren't beneficial. Eating a mixture of sweet and bitter and pungent flavors, that's a very Chinese medicine thing to do, where we mix sweet flavors such as root vegetables and grains with bitter flavors such as rocket and watercress, and then pungent flavors are onions, coriander and chives. This assists the qi of the digestion to move and circulate. Now, if anything I've mentioned here that you can't eat, don't eat it. Obviously, you need to eat things that you're able to eat, but having a variety of foods really gives the digestion the ability to work more efficiently. And also, if you are finding digestion a little bit sluggish, drinking green tea during your meal or peppermint tea during your meal is very important. these two teas promote digestion. So if you are consuming these teas on an empty stomach, you will actually either feel hungry because it's promoting digestion, or you might feel a bit nauseous or uncomfortable. These teas should only be consumed while eating or after meals. You can certainly have it after dinner. You want to sit down and relax in front of the TV, have a cup of tea, certainly fine to do after dinner. It doesn't have to be with your meal, but it has to be in and around food. So that's digestion. If you find you have got the yin and blood deficiency, there's lots of foods that you can eat that will improve this. So let's start with blood. So foods that will help with the manufacture of blood, obviously whole foods, nothing refined. Refined foods are really just all the nutrients have been taken out. So eating whole foods is really a great way to go. Meats and poultry, they have lots of nutrition. There's a lot of discussion around the care of animals during this process of delivering meat to our kitchen table. And the truth is that there's lots of farmers out there that are doing things ethically and in a way that's as easy as possible to the animal. So meat has a huge source of nutrition and protein that our body needs to rebuild blood. So very important. For women that are menstruating every month, if you're not a massive red meat fan, at least if you're eating it once a month, that's fantastic. Better than nothing. Poultry, your turkey, chicken, that's great. If you're able to have pork, great. If not, someone like me who doesn't eat pork, doesn't particularly like it either, then that's fine. But turkey and chicken are great. Fish is also another great source of nutrition, essential fatty acids and all these sorts of nutrients that are required to help with rebuilding blood. Another thing that we have in Chinese medicine, they call it the post-menstrual soup or postpartum soup. So what is traditionally used, and this is, don't need to use this yourself, but what is traditionally used is pig trotters. And what you would do is slow cook them with various vegetables in that, and you would have the soup. You wouldn't necessarily eat the pig trotters, but you'd have the soup. Now, you can do this with anything. You can do this with, the big bones you get that have marrow in it. They are obviously, with the marrow is beneficial for your health. So slow cooking that, putting a little bit of vinegar will extract the marrow from the bone if you're okay with having vinegar. So that will get more of the marrow into it. You can use chicken bones if you want, whatever it is. You create a broth and put lots of veggies and whatever else you want in there. Obviously, some meat is great. As we all know, when we get sick, when we have a cold or flu, we want some chicken soup. So chicken soup is very therapeutic for us. So using chicken carcass or something else with marrow in it is perfectly acceptable. So that's what we call the postpartum, post-menstrual soup, because we're really rejuvenating those lost nutrients that have been either through giving birth or breastfeeding or during the menstruation process as well. Now, marinated meat can be a great source of blood nourishing nutrients. When we let meat marinate overnight or for an hour, we let those flavors enter the meat and really seep into it. So that's another option you can have. Again, if you're able to have the marinade, then marinate your meat. Things like stewed casserole, stewed soups, so long cooking, long baking, slow cooking, whatever you want to call it. So slow cooking your meat will really allow the cooking process to minimize the impact of killing off nutrients by extreme heat. So you've got on a lower heat, it's done over a 12-hour period and keeps those nutrients. Make sure you drink the fluid that you've actually created from the broth. That's where all the nutrients are. In those circumstances, I always encourage people to use organic because we're drinking, we're eating the liquid. So very important for that. Now, egg yolks, legumes. Now, legumes are something that some people don't choose to eat. Obviously, I don't eat them because of the autoimmune condition that I manage. But if legumes are your thing, that's great. Grains, green leafy veggies, beetroot. Now, also traditionally, we've recommended red wine with meals. That can help with increasing blood. Alcohol in Chinese medicine generally is considered okay when consumed with meals, and we only look at red wine as being the one that exhibits those benefits. White wine doesn't have that benefit. It's only red wine that has that benefit to blood, and it's always done when with a meal. And that just assists in circulating blood and so forth. Now, other things you can add into your soup: fresh ginger, sweet potato, goji berries, mushrooms, carrots, Chinese yam, shallots. We said ginger, and that's about it. I mean, they're pretty good to help with increasing your nutrients in those stews. Now, when it comes to yin, yin foods are more centered around your antioxidant type foods. So, for instance, blueberries and mulberries are great. Another thing that improves yin are barley, millet, string beans, asparagus, and dark coloured beans. Seaweed, fish eggs, so caviar, dairy products, but I wouldn't go excessive because that would upset the digestion. Duck and pork is something that's more of a yin food. That's if you like it. It's a cooler meat, but again, that's something if it's a personal thing. Now, drinking 2 litres of water a day. If you're feeling particularly dehydrated, coconut water is a great option because it's got lots of nutrients in it. Water is just hydrogen, oxygen. So whereas coconut water's got potassium and other minerals in there. And the most important thing when improving yin is actually avoid chronic dieting, avoid stimulants like caffeine, and eating regularly. So it's really important to do the things that you're meant to do, but also avoid things that will upset that process. So that's really what the diet aspect is. So the blood foods and the yin foods. The qi foods are important to generally help with the digestion, but essentially that's just to assist the processing of the yin and blood foods, and then obviously topically hydrating your skin. Now, if you notice you've done this over a period of time and you don't necessarily see a change, then contact your local Chinese medicine practitioner and discuss what you've been doing. You can let them know what you've listened on this podcast and say, okay, this is what I've done. This is the effect I want. This is the effect I didn't get. What can we do to get this to happen? So sometimes you just need that herbal medicine to come in and do a more effective approach to improving that yin and blood deficiency to help. But having said that, it's really important to understand that yin and blood takes time. It's not something that happens overnight. And it's something that I encourage everyone to replenish at all ages, because once you get depleted, it takes a lot longer. When you're younger, you keep up your yin and blood. And, you know, like I said, with women post-menstrually, having lots of this food during your menstruation, having lots of these foods, and also continuing it between periods will just minimize the amount of deficiency that happens. Obviously for men, this is just as important. You know, a lot of sweating, physical activity, or men are warmer beings than women, so they probably perspire, generally saying they perspire a lot more than women. Losing those body fluids through sweat need to be replenished, and the best way to replenish it is through replenishing your yin. So very important for men as well. Do not forget men, even though I do see mostly women, but men also need a yin and blood rejuvenated. And if there's been illness or poor dietary habits, lots of drinking, all that's going to impact the body's health. So things like the blood and yin foods and the digestion foods are very important. And if we're talking about inflammatory foods being consumed, we need to go down the anti-inflammatory diet, which is really minimal dairy, alcohol, gluten, yeast, nightshades, that sort of thing. avoiding that sort of stuff, greasy, fatty food, processed food, eating fresh and home cooked food, and preparing lots of it and storing it away is probably the best way, and that's what I do a lot of because of time constraints. So hopefully that's been informative for you today. Like I said, dry skin, especially this time of year in Australia with the sun, exposure to the sun, that dries us. So keep up your water, keep up your nutrient-rich foods, keep yourself hydrated, make sure you moisturize your skin, and also keep out of the sun on those extreme days, because not only will you burn, but it also will exacerbate dryness of the skin and really damage that skin barrier, which would lead to more sensitivity in your skin. So if you have any questions on this topic, please write them below or email me at info@salubre.com.au. And if you found this beneficial for yourself and you want to share this with your friends and family, be sure to, as we'd love to inform as many people as possible on various things that they can do in the kitchen or at home that will benefit their health, and really share that message of making the right choices will lead us down the road of optimal health, making our life a lot easier. So anything you would like to hear from me, any topics that I haven't covered, any questions you might have, certainly send them through, write them on this forum, or you can email them through to me, info@salubre.com.au, and I'll be sure to do a podcast on that to share with you, as well as other people that might have a very similar concern or question as you have. So thanks for tuning in today, and I'll be sure to catch you next time on Salubrious Skin with Dr. Irene.